In the fertile farmlands of rural Kansas, in a modest farmhouse surrounded by endless wheat fields, lived Robert and Mary, a couple who had been married for 10 years but had never been blessed with children. Every morning, with the first rays of the sun, they would wake up, grab their tools, and head out to their fields. The land was not just their source of income, but also a refuge from their pain. Robert was a tall man with broad shoulders. His hands were calloused from years of work, his face bronzed by the sun, but his eyes carried a deep sadness. Every night, as he lay beside his wife, he would think about the empty bedroom down the hall, and his heart would ache. Mary was petite but strong. Her blonde hair was always neatly braided, her hands always clean, but her heart was wounded. When she heard the sounds of children playing in neighboring farms, she would pretend to be busy with her garden work while hiding her tears. While other couples in their farming community had long since become grandparents, Robert and Mary still dreamed of having their own child. Every Sunday at the local Methodist church, every Saturday at the farmer's market, eyes would follow them and whispers would trail behind. Poor folks, no children. The Lord hasn't blessed them yet. Maybe there's something wrong with them. These words pierced Robert's heart like daggers. Mary seemed to have grown accustomed to such talk, but the tears she shed in the darkness of night never ceased. That day, as April was coming to an end, the soil had warmed and planting season had arrived. Robert and Mary had gone to their fields early in the morning as always. While working, they heard sounds coming from the bushes at the edge of their wheat field. "What's that, Robert?" Mary said, setting down her hoe. "I hear something." Robert stopped too, listening carefully. Rustling sounds and small whimperings were coming from the bushes. Both approached that direction with curiosity. They were stunned by what they saw. A large snake had cornered a small weasel. The weasel was trembling with fear, but it was standing its ground to protect its young. The mother weasel positioned herself in front of her baby, facing the snake eye to eye. It was as if she knew her own life didn't matter much, but her baby had to survive. Robert and Mary held their breath as they watched this dramatic struggle. The snake was flicking its tongue, swaying its head left and right, trying to intimidate the weasel. The mother weasel, with her baby behind her, was showing her small teeth and displaying a brave stance. Suddenly, when they least expected it, the mother weasel lunged at the snake. The snake, as if anticipating this sudden move, caught the weasel and quickly disappeared into the bushes. Only a tiny, helpless baby weasel remained. The young one was whimpering, looking in the direction where its mother had gone, searching for her. Robert and Mary felt great sadness at this sight. "Isn't it heartbreaking, Robert?" Mary said, tears welling up in her eyes. "The mother gave her own life to save her baby. What will happen to this little one now?" Robert was also moved. Especially seeing such great maternal love shook him deeply. As a man without children of his own, one who longed for a child, he could better understand this sacrifice. "Mary," he said slowly, "let's take it home. We'll feed it, raise it. Maybe there's some wisdom in God's plan." Mary's face brightened. The maternal feelings inside her stirred great compassion for this small creature. "Of course, Robert. This little one is our responsibility now." Robert bent down and took the baby weasel in his cupped hands. The weasel was so small it fit in Robert's palms. He felt the trembling body warmth in his hands. The little heart was beating so fast. As they walked home, both were very excited. It felt like a long-awaited baby was finally coming to their home. Mary planned what they would do along the way. "We'll give it milk, prepare a warm place. I can make a little bed for my old fabrics." Robert smiled. He hadn't seen his wife this happy in a long time. When they arrived home, Mary immediately pulled out old fabrics from the closet in the corner room. She prepared a soft bed for the weasel. Robert went to get milk from town and tried to feed the weasel with a small spoon. The first days were difficult. The weasel was very small and had to learn to live without its mother. At night, it would often wake up, whimper softly, and search for its mother. During these times, Mary would get up, take it in her arms, and sing lullabies. "Sleep now and grow, my darling, sleep now and grow, my baby, you're our child now, sleep now and grow, my darling." Robert would hear these lullabies too, and his heart would overflow with happiness. Finally, there was a sound of life in their home. Nighttime wake-ups, feeding times, the joy of growth. Over time, the weasel began to grow. First, it opened its eyes, then started to walk. With tiny paws, it began to get accustomed to the house. It was exploring every corner, curious about everything. Mary and Robert named it Whiskers. This name suited its species and also represented how it had brought color to their lives like a spring flower. As Whiskers grew, the couple's life changed too. Now, they would check on Whiskers when they woke up in the morning, look for it when they returned home in the evening, play with it, and show it love. The farming community had also heard about this situation, learning that the couple was raising a weasel. Interesting things are happening, the farmers would say. The childless couple is raising an animal. But these words no longer affected Robert and Mary, because they had a source of joy in their home. About 8 months after bringing Whiskers home, Mary felt different one morning. Her stomach was queasy, and certain smells bothered her. The older women in the community knew these symptoms very well. Mary couldn't believe it at first. The news she had been waiting for, praying for, crying over for 10 years. Was it possible? She waited days before telling Robert. She wanted to be sure. Finally, one evening, while petting Whiskers, she quietly turned to Robert. "Robert," she said slowly, I think I might be pregnant." Robert's tea cup fell to the floor. Glass shards scattered everywhere, but he didn't even notice. He looked at his wife, his eyes wide open. "Mary, is it real? Are you sure?" "I think so, Robert. All the signs are there." Both began to cry. After 10 years of waiting, Whiskers also seemed to sense this emotional moment circling around them. "Whiskers brought us luck," Robert said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Ever since it came, our home has changed." Mary was thinking the same thing. After bringing Whiskers into their home, their lives had become more meaningful. Perhaps the mercy they showed to this small creature had made them worthy of such a blessing. As the pregnancy progressed, Whiskers had also grown. It was now an adult weasel and had gotten used to every part of the house. It would roam in the garden, wander around the house, and sleep in a small bed set up next to Robert and Mary's bed at night. The farming community had also heard the news of the couple's pregnancy. Everyone was very happy. This good couple finally having a child made the whole community joyful. "Praise the Lord, He finally blessed them," they would say. "They waited so long. They deserved this happiness. I hope the baby is born healthy." Since Mary was pregnant, she reduced her field work. Robert paid more attention to his wife, not letting her do heavy work, constantly being by her side. While Mary rested at home, Whiskers kept her company. It was as if Whiskers understood the pregnancy, staying closer to Mary, never leaving her side. "Look, Robert," Mary would say, "Whiskers seems to know about the baby. It's constantly by my side like it's protecting me." Robert had noticed this too. Whiskers behaved more protectively around Mary, would position itself in front of her when strangers came, and was more vigilant at night. 9 months later, on a spring evening, Mary gave birth. The community midwife helped, while Robert waited anxiously outside. Whiskers was also by Robert's side, seeming anxious as well. Finally, the sound of a baby was heard. Robert's knees trembled. The midwife came out smiling. "Congratulations, you have a healthy son, Robert." Robert rushed into the house. Mary was lying in bed, tired but happy, with a tiny baby in her arms. Robert would never forget that moment. The miracle he had waited 10 years for was right in front of him. "Robert," Mary said through tears, "our son." Robert took the baby in his arms. He was so tiny that Robert was very afraid of hurting him. The baby opened his eyes and looked at his father. At that moment, Robert's world changed. Whiskers also approached curiously. It smelled the baby, then looked at Mary and Robert, as if saying, "I'm part of this family too. What shall we name him?" Mary asked. "Tommy," Robert said. "After my father. Let him be Tommy." With baby Tommy's birth, a completely new routine was established in the house. Mary spent most of her time with the baby, while Robert constantly thought about his home while working in the fields. Whiskers adapted very quickly to this new situation. Whiskers had accepted baby Tommy and had essentially taken him under its protection. When the baby cried, Whiskers would also become restless, running to Mary as if saying, "The baby is crying. Do something." At night, it slept next to the baby's cradle, and during the day, it never left the crib's side. When the older women from the community came to see the baby, they were amazed by Whiskers' behavior. "This weasel is like the baby's guardian angel," they would say. "It never leaves his side." Robert and Mary had also noticed this. Whiskers really loved Tommy. As the baby grew, it was obvious that a special bond would form between them. When Tommy was 3 months old, he started crawling. At 6 months, he learned to sit. Whiskers closely followed his every development, seeming proud. "These two friends will grow up together," Robert would say. "When Tommy grows up, he'll understand Whiskers' story. That was the first member of our family." When Tommy was 10 months old, Robert and Mary faced a big problem. The irrigation canal on the other side of their field had become clogged and needed urgent attention. The water had to be cleared that day to prevent it from flooding the crops. "Mary," Robert said during breakfast, "we need to clear the canal today. If the water overflows, all our crops will be ruined." "But Tommy," Mary said, looking at her baby. Tommy was still sleeping, lying peacefully in his crib. Whiskers was standing beside the crib as always. "It won't take long," Robert said. "At most half an hour. Tommy's sleeping anyway, and Whiskers is with him. Nothing will happen." Mary hesitated. She had never left her baby alone before. But Robert was right. The field was very important, and delaying could cause great damage. "Okay," Mary said, "but let's handle it quickly. I feel uneasy leaving Tommy alone." "Whiskers is here anyway," Robert said. "It will watch over him." Both put on their work clothes, took their shovels, and hurried outside. As they closed the door, Whiskers was standing beside the baby, as if on guard duty. After Robert and Mary went to the field, only sleeping baby Tommy and awake Whiskers remained in the house. Whiskers sat beside the crib, as always, watching Tommy. For a while, everything was normal. Tommy was sleeping peacefully, and Whiskers was waiting patiently. However, as noon approached, an unexpected visitor approached the house. A large, venomous rattlesnake, disturbed by the human scents coming from the house, decided to investigate what was happening in its territory. It slowly approached the house's yard, then the house itself. Whiskers was the first to notice this situation. Its ears perked up, it caught the scent, and sensed the danger. It immediately stood up and walked toward the house entrance. The snake was trying to enter through the gap onto the house door. When Whiskers saw this, its entire body tensed. Instinctively, it knew this creature was dangerous for the baby. Whiskers quietly approached the snake. The snake had also noticed Whiskers. The two faced each other. This was like a replay of that scene from years ago in the field. But this time, Whiskers was thinking not only of itself, but of the baby it was responsible for protecting. The tension between the snake and Whiskers was escalating. The snake raised its head and threatened by flicking its tongue. Whiskers positioned itself to never turn its back on the direction where the baby was. The snake made the first move. It quickly attacked Whiskers. Whiskers dodged the snake's attack with its agility and counterattacked. It sank its teeth into the snake's body. This battle was silent but deadly. Both were fighting for their lives. But Whiskers had a special motivation, protecting Tommy. The fight continued in different corners of the house. The snake was strong and venomous, while Whiskers was fast and determined. In this long struggle, both were wounded. Finally, Whiskers attacked the snake's vital point and killed it. However, this victory had cost it dearly. The snake had also bitten Whiskers, and the venom was beginning to spread. As Whiskers breathed its last, it looked at the baby. Tommy was still sleeping peacefully. The mission was complete. The baby was safe. When Robert and Mary returned from clearing the canal, they paused at the door for a moment. Everything looked normal. They opened the door and entered. The scene they saw shocked them. Whiskers was in the middle of the house, blood stains around its mouth, trying to walk. Under the effect of the venom, it was staggering, its eyes growing dim. "Oh my God!" Mary screamed. "Whiskers, what happened to you?" But Robert was thinking something different. Seeing the blood stains around Whiskers' mouth, the first thing that came to his mind was terrible. Did something happen to the baby? Tommy, he shouted and ran to the baby's room. Mary followed behind him. But Robert was so panicked and angry that he didn't stop. Seeing the blood around Whisker's mouth, he thought it had harmed the baby. He raised the shovel in his hand and turned toward Whiskers. Did you hurt my baby? He shouted, striking Whiskers with the shovel. Robert, stop! Mary screamed, but it was too late. Robert couldn't control his anger. Whiskers, already wounded and poisoned, couldn't withstand this attack. It breathed its last. After Robert's anger subsided, Mary immediately ran to the baby's room. Tommy was sleeping in his crib with not a single problem. He even had a small smile on his face. Robert, Mary shouted, Tommy is fine. Nothing happened to him. Robert looked at the baby in amazement. Tommy was indeed healthy and peaceful. So where did the blood around Whisker's mouth come from? Mary began to examine the room more carefully. On the other side of the crib, in the corner, she saw something. She approached and faced the horrible truth. Robert, she cried out, come here. Robert ran over. Where Mary was pointing, a dead rattlesnake was lying. The snake's head was crushed, and there were bite marks on its body. Both understood the terrible truth at that moment. Whiskers had fought the snake to protect the baby and killed it. The blood around its mouth was the snake's blood, not Tommy's. Robert fell to his knees. His hands began to tremble, and tears flowed from his eyes. Oh God, he murmured, what have I done? What have I done? After understanding the truth, Robert and Mary experienced great shock. Whiskers had sacrificed its life to protect their baby, but they had failed to understand this and instead punished it. Robert looked at Whisker's lifeless body. Just thinking about striking it with a shovel was unbearable for him. This creature, which they had raised like their own child, which they loved, had protected them even in its final moments. Mary, he said through tears, it protected us. It always protected us. It protected Tommy. But Mary was also crying. Robert, you couldn't have known. You were just trying to protect our baby. No, Robert shouted. I judged hastily. I didn't look first, didn't try to understand. At that moment, Robert remembered what they had witnessed in the field years ago. How the mother weasel had sacrificed herself to protect her young. Now the same thing had happened. Whiskers had given its life to protect Tommy. That first day, Robert murmured the scene we saw in the field, how the mother weasel protected her young. Our Whiskers did the same. It protected us too, but Whisker's death was quickly heard in the farming community. When neighbors heard crying sounds coming from Robert and Mary's house, they learned about the situation. The community members who heard what had happened felt great sadness. Everyone knew what a loyal companion Whiskers had been. Its dying so heroically, but being misunderstood deeply affected everyone. What a shame, the farmers would say. That weasel was so good-hearted. It died protecting the baby, but Robert couldn't understand. These things happen. People make mistakes when they panic. But these words brought no comfort to Robert. The community's understanding didn't lighten the regret inside him. When the community's pastor heard about the incident, he said to Robert, Robert, my son, this event teaches us a great lesson. We shouldn't make hasty decisions. What appears on the surface isn't always the truth. The pastor's words were true, but it was already too late. As the days passed, Robert's regret grew. Every day when he came home, he felt Whisker's absence. Those little footstep sounds, joyful runnings, the sight of it standing by the baby, all of it was left behind. Tommy continued to grow, but now he didn't have his protective friend by his side. When Robert looked at his baby, he remembered Whiskers and his heart ached. I wish I had been patient, he would murmur at nights. I wish I had first looked to understand what had happened. I wish I hadn't been hasty. Mary was also deeply affected by this situation. Whisker's absence wounded her deeply too, but seeing the torment of conscience Robert was suffering was even more painful. Robert, she would say to him, don't torment yourself like this. You weren't trying to do something bad. You were just trying to protect your son. But Mary, Robert would reply, I judged it. I didn't give a chance. If I had waited a little to see what it had done for us. From that day on, Robert could never harm any animal. He felt pity for dogs, cats, birds, even harmful insects. It was as if he was trying to live the regret of what he did to Whiskers this way. Months passed, but Robert's pain didn't subside. Every day when he woke up, his first task was to visit Whiskers' grave. He had buried it in the most beautiful place in the garden among the flowers. He had made a marker from small stones on its grave and left fresh flowers there every day. "Come, Whiskers," he would talk at the graveside. "I want you to forgive me. I know you can hear me. I know you understand. I made a big mistake. A very big mistake." The community members saw Robert's condition and felt sorry for him. Some would come and try to console him. "Brother Robert, don't be so sad. May God have mercy on that weasel's soul. Don't destroy yourself either." But no consolation was enough for Robert. The regret inside him was so deep and so painful that nothing could relieve him. As Tommy grew, Robert decided to tell him Whiskers' story. The child was still young, but for him to understand, he repeated these words at every opportunity. "Tommy, my son, when you grow up, don't be prejudiced. Don't judge people, animals, everyone hastily. First try to understand, then make your decision." When Tommy turned 3, he could understand his father's words better. Robert told him the entire story of Whiskers. Little Tommy was very sad listening to this story. "Dad," Tommy said, "Whiskers protected me, right?" "Yes, son," Robert said, tears in his eyes. "It loved you very much. When you were still a baby, it was your protective friend. But your dad, Dad misunderstood it. So where is Whiskers now, Dad?" "It's in heaven now, son, with God. And from there, it's still protecting you." Tommy was deeply affected by this story. Every day, he would go to the grave in the garden, call out, "Brother Whiskers," and leave flowers for it. Robert, seeing his son's behavior, felt both happy and his pain increased. Tommy loved Whiskers, but it was no longer there. One day, Tommy asked his father, "Dad, why are you always sad?" "Brother Whiskers can see us from heaven and is happy." This question made Robert think a lot. Maybe his son was right. Maybe Whiskers really was watching them and was happy. But his regret was still very fresh. When Tommy was 5, a similar incident occurred in the community. Their neighbor, Mr. Johnson, had a small cat living in his house. This cat had also become part of the family, just like Whiskers. One day when Mr. Johnson came home, he saw blood stains around the cat's mouth. He immediately ran to his daughter's room, but his daughter was safe and sound. Mr. Johnson, just like Robert, thought the cat had harmed the child and wanted to attack it. Robert, hearing about this incident, immediately ran to Mr. Johnson's house. "Mr. Johnson," he shouted, "stop. Wait. Look around first." "What should I look at, Robert?" Mr. Johnson asked. "The cat has blood around its mouth." "Sir, please listen to me. I made the same mistake. Please be patient. Look around." At Robert's insistence, Mr. Johnson examined his house more carefully. And indeed, he found a dead rat in the corner. The cat had killed the rat to protect the child. "My God," Mr. Johnson said, "if you hadn't been here, I would have made the same mistake." This incident gave Robert some relief. At least he had saved another creature's life. Maybe Whiskers' pain was being eased a little this way. Robert and Whiskers' story had been much talked about in the farming community. Over time, this story became a lesson. Community members began saying to each other, "Let's not make hasty decisions. Let's not forget what happened to Robert. Let's remember Whiskers' story. First, let's understand, then let's judge."